It was a cold Sunday evening in January. My mom and dad had taken my sister to the next town over for a ballet performance, and being the snotty little 13-year-old that I was, I had started a fight with her over basically nothing, so my folks would send me to my room for the night, which would get me out of ending my weekend by watching 3 hours of ballet. About an hour after they'd left, I was upstairs at the far end of my bedroom, sitting in front of the TV with a bowl of chips watching The Simpsons. It was a large 2-story, 4-bedroom house, but I was pretty comfortable there alone, at least before this night, that is. It was cold, like I'd said, but even more so my room than the others because I still had this big orange extension cable running out of my window to our Christmas lights. My window was directly above the garage, and our house was sort of on a hill across from a creek, so all the other houses on the other side of the creek could see the roof of our garage really well. So me and my dad had decided to totally deck it out with Christmas decorations that year. There were big plastic cutouts of elves surrounded by ornate gift boxes, Santa and all his reindeer, and a ton of bright white lights that ran the perimeter of the roof. My bed was right in front of that window, so it sort of made sleeping kind of suck all winter because the window was always open for the extension cable to run out, and the cold air would come in, and the bright lights would stream in along with it. About halfway through The Simpsons, I got up and went across the room to my bed to get a blanket. When I did, I bent down and unplugged the automatic timer the extension cable for the lights was plugged into, figuring I'd give our power bill and the neighbors a break for the night, seeing as it was a week into January. When I got back to the other side of the room, I tucked myself in on the futon in front of my TV and started zoning out to my favorite show again. It was about another 15 minutes or so when out of nowhere, an incredible pounding started on the window at the front of my room. It wasn't a friendly tapping or even some non-existent tree branch torn down from a storm, but a purposeful, aggressive, and repeated banging. I didn't even have time to think. I instinctively jumped up and bolted for my bedroom door, despite having to pass the window on my way. As I approached the bed, the banging stopped, and I flung open the door, terrified by what might be behind those blinds. I tore down the staircase faster than I knew I could, rounded the hallway, not even looking around to see if anyone had broken into the house or not, and in an instant I had to make up my mind. Do I run out of the front door on my left, or do I keep running down the hallway into my parents' bedroom to hide from whoever it was? My instincts told me to stay inside, and that since my parents' room was the only one with a lock on it, it might be a better bet than running out into the pitch-black, frigid night, barefoot and aimless. I swung open their door, turned, and slammed it shut, flipping the lock on the knob. My parents haven't ever been the gun-owning type, so I knew the only weapon I had at my disposal was my dad's old Air Force-issued night watchman's baton. Grabbing the baton and the cordless phone off the dresser, I squeezed myself onto the bed and tried to catch my breath while remaining perfectly still. Outside the window, I could hear the big box air conditioning unit kick off as it stopped pumping heat into the house. The fan slowly stopped spinning with a wheezing hiss, and I realized, as I peered up at the window from under the bed, that the trees completely enveloped our house, making it impossible for anyone at street level to see any part of the house at night, except for the roof of the garage. Thoughts raced through my head of a face suddenly appearing at the window, pale, unforgiving, cold, and unafraid. This was in the days before cell phones, so the closest thing we had were pagers and car phones. Thankfully, because of their jobs, my mom and dad had both. I paged both of them with the house number, followed by 911, which was our emergency code. Unfortunately, my sister and I had used this code so many times for reasons ranging from dinner being late to needing to be picked up at the movies, so it was a total crapshoot as to whether or not they would even take it seriously. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, my dad did take it seriously enough to call, though let's be honest, he was probably just looking for an excuse to take a break from the ballet recital. Just as the phone lit up and started ringing, I was filled with shock and horror, realizing my sister and I shared a line upstairs, and the phone I held in my hands was the only phone in the house that was ringing, which basically told whoever it was banging on my open window exactly where I was in the house if I were to answer it. My only choice was to let it ring, then try to call the car phone back. The phone rang 3 or 4 more times, and just as it cut off, I heard a loud bang outside the window I'd been peeking up at. Someone had jumped off the roof onto the air conditioning unit and was right outside the window. I turned the phone away instantly, trying to hide the light it made, then flipped the ringer switch to the off position and dialed my parents' car phone number as I inched further and further away from the window. My dad answered, sounding bothered, and I told him in a whispered panic what had happened. He responded by telling me they were at least half an hour from home, and that if I really thought I was in danger, I should hang up and call the police. After a minute or two of him talking me down and reassuring me they'd be on their way immediately, I hung up and decided to call 911. Just then, I heard a man's voice as clear as if it were in the room with me. He pointedly announced, with a calm tone, in what amounted to a loud whisper, "I know you're alone, kid." Hot shivers ran up my spine in tingling waves of terror. He was right there outside the window, and he knew where I was, too. I turned the phone on and dialed 911, and when the dispatch woman answered, I just started screaming my address and yelling, "Help me, help me! Someone's trying to break into my house! He knows I'm alone!" In the middle of my screaming, I heard a bunch of noises outside the window and what sounded like quickening footsteps. As the woman tried to calm me down, the doorbell rang, and pounding started at the front door. She kept trying to get more information from me, but I just kept saying my address and screaming "help me" over and over again for what seemed like 5 or 6 minutes. I was now standing next to the bed with the baton in one hand and the phone in the other when I heard loud footsteps above me. Someone was in my bedroom. I screamed, "They're in the house! There's more than one of them!" The footsteps thundered down the stairs, and as I heard them fill the house, I dropped the phone and the baton and charged into the dresser across the room by the closet, turning it over against the bedroom door. I grabbed the baton and wedged myself up against the dresser and took deep, gasping breaths to try and calm myself as I listened. More footsteps. This time they were outside again, and they were quicker. Then, nothing. The flashing red and blue lights of the police cars seemed to take hours to arrive, though my parents later told me it only took them about 35 minutes to get home after I had spoken with my dad. After they searched the house and told us nothing looked damaged except for the overturned dresser and all the picture frames and stuff that had gotten broke when I flipped it over, my parents did a second walkthrough with the police and determined nothing was even taken. The only thing that was out of place at all was my bedroom window, which was completely open. The police took a report and a full statement from me and advised us to not only keep our windows and doors locked at all times, but to install a security system, which we did the following week. We lived in that house for another 3 or 4 years and never had another incident, though we also never decorated the roof of the garage again either. I won't say that I never purposely started a fight with my sister to get out of one of her dance recitals again, but each time I did it, it was with the knowledge that a little bit of boredom was nothing compared to a whole lot of terror